Hey everyone. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to take a moment to honor someone who meant a lot to me and to so many others, the incomparable Diane Keaton. We recently lost her, and it really hit me hard. Diane wasn't just an incredible actor, she was an icon of individuality and humor and authenticity. Her work in films like Annie Hall, Something's Gotta Give, and The Godfather showed her range, her wit, and her heart. So today, I'm wearing a tie in her honor, something that feels so right because Diane made that look her own. She redefined style, not just for women, but for anyone who ever wanted to dress for themselves, not for others. And that sense of individuality extended far beyond her wardrobe. It showed up in the homes she designed and restored, and each one was a reflection of her love for design and craftsmanship. Here's to Diane Keaton. Thank you for the movies, the laughs, the courage to be yourself, and your inspiration that will live on forever. You'll be greatly missed. Welcome to It's Your Space. I'm Mary Cox, Seattle-based, New York-bred interior designer who firmly believes that subconsciously, design choices psychologically and physically influence how you feel in a space. This podcast will introduce you to the science behind how your environment impacts your well-being. I'm often asked what my process is for designing a space. It's easy. I listen. Because the truth is, you actually know what you want, and I know how to get you there. Every design project I do tells a story, your story. Today I want to talk about someone who told my story. I was asked to write an article for the United States Equestrian Federation magazine, and since it was fall, we decided it would be fun to add a modern twist on the traditional Thanksgiving dinner. And since farm to table is the new revolution in our thinking about eating, we thought, what better way to present this concept than with an elegant dinner set in a barn? Dr. Beth Gloston, the author of The Writing Doctor, she was gracious enough to let us use her lovely barn for our setting. We transformed her barn aisle into a welcoming venue for the article, which we called A Moveable Feast. We brought in a long farmer's table, dining chairs, and actually took the bench right off my front porch as we were leaving for the shoot. We added beautiful equestrian-themed china and horse snaffle bits as napkin rings, and ran a quick trip to the grocery store for some color with a variety of gourds and pumpkins that we added to the table. We were all set. Now all we needed was a photographer who could see our vision and convey the sense of holiday warmth we intended in a cold barn. Levi Clark was our man, and did he deliver? Levi took all we were trying to accomplish in this shoot and brought it to life. There's a shot with both horses looking out their stall doors at the same moment, almost as if asking, who's coming to dinner? That was done with Levi's guidance and expertise. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I was lying on the cold concrete floor under the table for this shot, calling out the horses' names, holding 2 carrots to get them to put their heads out. Levi actually climbed a ladder to get the angle he wanted on our decorative lighting, which consisted of these stirrup irons hung by fishing line from the ceiling, and we had a little candle in the center. That photo that he shot went viral with 1 million hits on the Federation site within 1 week. And by the way, the Moveable Feast article and Levi's pictures are on our website homepage. Just scroll to the bottom, they're right down there. But back to the story. Levi truly listened to what I was shooting for, no pun intended, and the feelings I was trying to evoke in the set we designed. He nailed it. The article was so well received that horse enthusiasts from around the country were reaching out to us. So Levi, photographer extraordinaire, we're so glad you could join us today to talk about how you bring your clients' stories to life through your camera lens. How do you do it?
Hey, Mary, thank you for having me. So, using this movable feast as a great example, the preparation for that was determined by all the information that you gave me with what you were looking for to accomplish and what feelings you were trying to evoke through the shoot. So, I knew to come prepared with the correct lighting and a ladder to get up to these heights in this large barn with all of the technical tools that I needed to accomplish the shoot. But most importantly, was listening to what you're trying to evoke and the message that you're wanting to send through these images.
Tell me this, what are some elements a photographer can use to guide the viewer to the story that the photo is meant to tell? Is there a science behind it?
There is a science behind it. There are a lot of technical elements to creating photos, but more importantly, there's a science behind how lighting and compositions make you feel by observing a photo. So the textures, the shadowing in an image, height of compositions, all of that affects our brains in different ways and can send different messages.
Right, exactly. So tell me this, with the science behind it being the catalyst for the story, is you were telling us a story that you had for the Vanity Fair shot and what happened on your way down. You were in Capitol Hill on the way for the shot, and you went by this alleyway. There was a little alley that had a nicely paved floor, brick wall, beautiful lighting. You made a decision right away because of the feeling they wanted to evoke.
That's right. Yeah, that's a great example of this, and one of those where you just see something or are compelled to work with it. We totally switched the program up on the fly there. I was going to be shooting inside of a retail store, and on the way there, noticed this alleyway that had, like you said, the beautiful brick and the pavers on the ground and the lighting that was coming in just perfectly, and ran into their shop and proposed that we gather their staff up and start loading everything out into this alleyway off of the street to do the shoot.
No way.
So we did it on the fly, set it up perfectly, and they loved it. It turned out great and was a beautiful image in Vanity Fair for them.
You once told me, Levi, that you have an on-off button in your head. And what do you mean by that? I have feelings like that. When my button is on, I walk into a space and know when things are not visually balanced. And I have a visceral response to it, an actual response. And you mentioned your on-off button can annoy your friends when it's on. Does that relate to what happened at the Vanity Fair shoot? Explain to us your on button.
Absolutely. It sounds like we have that same button. That on and off button is great for what we do. But to use an example of going out to dinners with friends where you're moving across the room to adjust paintings or tableware to be perfectly inlined, it can be annoying. But when it's on for the purpose that we do,
then it's of course, that's our superpower.
Then it's actually a gift and a superpower.
A superpower.
Yeah.
And I will tell you this, that for the listeners, when Levi's on button was on, because when he came in here to do this in the studio, and he all of a sudden impulsively got up and straightened out the picture in back of him on the wall. He saw it, and it caught his eye, and then all of a sudden I see him getting up and straightening the picture.
Busted.
Busted. And I will add that I am notorious for rearranging furniture in hotel rooms. And my husband was so used to me that if we were on a trip that required, being there for a week or 2 weeks or something, he was just so used to me asking him could you move this sofa over to the right? And can you help me change this art? I can't look at this for 2 weeks. Or move this lamp. And he was just like, oh, yeah, no problem, Mary,
Exactly the same, Mary. One of the last trips to Mexico, when Airbnb that we had, I ended up rearranging all of the furniture before and the friend that I was meeting with there said, why are you doing this? It's not necessary. I expressed, I'm on vacation. I needed to do that in order to feel like I was on vacation. And it was funny, when we were leaving, he asked if I was going to be moving the furniture back. And I said, no, they should be paying us extra now for being here. I should get a discount.
In this,
I'm leaving it.
And it was a gorgeous place with like an infinity pool. You sent me pictures of that.
Beautiful
place.
Pools overlooking
and you're
the
rearranging it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great furniture. It just needed our on switch.
But then, this is interesting. What was actually happening to you that you were in the space, got there before him? Mm-hmm. What was happening to you physically, mentally, that you looked and said, this can't be like this. This is my vacation. What made you?
It's like that visceral response that you mentioned.
Like in your
you
stomach?
You just know that something isn't vibing with how you want to relax in the space. Something is off. And
is it affecting you physically?
Go into a new space and have expectations set like that, and it's going to become my space for a week. I need the environment to be conducive to.
Because it'll affect you in your head or your stomach or your
vacation or productivity.
Bingo.
If it's an office setting, if it's in a studio setting, it needs to work with what I'm trying to
do.
Yeah,
Got
exactly.
It.
Yeah.
Well, is there like a clear example of how a photographic technique can evoke an emotional response in the viewer?
Yeah, an extreme opposite example that I like to mention to people to convey this is what's referred to as the Dutch angle, or more appropriately, the Deutsch angle that came out of German Impressionism. It's used to intentionally set things off on images, compositions on angles within these images to produce feelings of anxiety or this distress. It's been used wildly through film. The first studio that they set up for a film that was used with this Deutsch angle, they built the whole studio at an angle, or the set at an angle, and then afterwards realized they could have just tilted the camera.
After they built the studio?
Yeah, people were sliding down things. A fun example of how this was used is in the 1960s Batman series.
Got it.
The protagonists, Joker, Penguin, what have you, all had these specific degrees of angles associated with them. And every time they were on these cameras, they used that
Got it.
consistently, which
Got
is
it.
fun to reflect on, is how that evoked a certain feeling with that character.
So that every time that they were on, therefore you wouldn't even know it, but then you'd realize that maybe your blood pressure changed, your cortisol, whatever the effect they wanted by that,
Yeah.
because something was going to be a sense of chaos
Exactly.
or just by the angle.
Yeah.
So, this leads to, I think I pronounced it right, but I don't know. But his name is Sigurd Lewens, and he was the head of Swedish modernism.
Yeah, that was a really interesting film that I attended recently with an architect friend and client at the Nordic Heritage Museum. That really spoke to me with how he designed a lot of churches from this era that included features like uneven flooring with stones that are used, a lot with lighting and shadowing to create a sense of awareness in the space. And
In churches.
yeah, he went to the extent in one of these of having baptismal with a water fountain on it that dripped into this.
Like continuously?
Yeah, to create this
Okay.
occasional sound and an echo through the space. And that was amazing to see how it's been just used for so long and how it can create such an impact on the observers and the patrons of these spaces.
And you were saying something about that. I think you told me about the windows were only placed on one wall and they were at a stark angle. So the light was coming down. Again, all about divine darkness, using lighting in buildings creates emotions and creates physical reactions to it without you even knowing it.
Right.
You're reacting to the design that came from the photographer, the architect, the designer. They're all part of the...
Yeah, in these settings, it was effective in creating these subdued and intentional environments.
Good word. Yeah. Intentional. Intentional environments. So now, Levi, after all we've been talking about, would you say a good photographer doesn't just take a picture, he or she makes a picture, which I believe that was a quote from Ansel Adams.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
The creation of the photos, as we discussed, includes a lot of technical knowledge and equipment, but more importantly, requires a lot of understanding and communication about what the environment should be, what emotions we're trying to convey through the setting and through the imagery.
And physical, do you take into mind that I want them to feel a physical reaction, whether it be happiness, sadness, those are all emotions, but they're going to change your physical chemistry. How's
Absolutely.
That? Is that a good word?
Yeah, no, that's a great word.
Chemistry.
Absolutely. Like we use that example of that Dutch angle. We're usually not trying to convey those feelings of anxiety through what we do, but having clean lines and lighting, textures, and conveying senses of peace and calm that uplift our well-being are critical. And finding the way to create these emotions through very specific uses of these lines and lightings, and that whether or not people realize that everything is perfect, you subliminally know that something is off, whether or not you're a designer or a photographer. Our bodies will react to it and tell us. So it's our job to keep that in mind and convey.
Got it. And I really firmly believe that people can learn how to listen to their bodies. Like you were talking about a shot One time you were doing a shoot of a home for me, and you went into a room and you said, "Oh, this actually makes me feel sick." I was like, "Oh, great, I didn't do it."
I believe that involved a bedspread.
I think you said the bedspread's making me feel sick. And I was like, you said, you were really like, getting yourself like a reaction to it, your body.
It was funny because you saw me you were asking whether or not we should do a shot in there, and then you saw me getting queasy while that button was on, and we decided to abandon it. So yes.
Well, a lot of the elements you were talking about are what I use in designing home: color and texture, scale, lighting. And when I meet with clients, I am watching their body language and listening to how they feel when they're presented with different design elements. Levi, we are both into the science of design and recognize the power we have as designers and how we use our design elements to affect the client's physical and mental health. We have worked together for a long time, telling people's stories through our designs. So thank you, Levi, for the 10 years of phenomenal photos and for joining us today. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you for having me, Mary.
It's been a pleasure. It always is. I hope that this podcast will help empower you and teach you how to pursue your vision for your home by becoming aware of how design elements make you feel. We have many creative and interesting guests joining us in future podcasts, and they'll all be sharing their knowledge and experiences with holistic design. We are excited about hearing from all of you and learning about your reactions to different design components, and welcome your comments and likes, and of course, would greatly appreciate you subscribing to our channel. Till next time, remember to start listening to yourself, because it's about you. It's your home. It's your space.